Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation podcast network.
Welcome to Remission Possible, the podcast dedicated to guiding and supporting you on your mission to achieve lower disease activity. I'm your host, Adam Kegley, Associate Director of Global Partnerships at the Global Healthy Living Foundation. We understand that this challenge wasn't something you asked for, but remember, you are stronger than you think, and you deserve the opportunity to regain control and live your best life. In each episode, we'll share inspiring stories from patients who are succeeding in their mission and discuss how patients and doctors can work together to better understand the optimal course of treatment for different chronic conditions while keeping personal goals and lifestyle choices in mind. In today's episode, we'll hear from Racquel Dozier, an American systemic lupus erythematosus patient who was diagnosed with lupus in 2004. Racquel has always been an active individual, from having qualified twice for Olympic trials in 1988 and 1992 to founding her own lupus support, education, and advocacy group called Lupus in Color. A former social worker, teacher, and counselor, Racquel is currently an author, entrepreneur, and true advocate for the lupus community. We will be discussing Racquel's personal journey with lupus, including how her life has changed since diagnosis, the different types of treatments Racquel has tried, her relationship with her doctor, and the importance of self-advocacy to receive optimal care, and how she defines and reached remission in her daily life. So whether you're a patient in the early stages of your journey, or someone looking for inspiration and motivation, this podcast is for you. So join us on this mission as we empower you with valuable insights and tips to break free from the cycle of pain and anxiety and ultimately bring you closer to achieving low disease activity. It's time to rewrite your story because remission is possible. Hi, Racquel. Thanks so much for joining us today and being willing to share your story with us.
Hi, Adam. How are you? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm doing well. I'm really, really glad to talk to you today. And if you'd like, we can just go ahead and jump right in. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you live, your profession, and the condition you live with.
All right. Well, my name is Racquel Dozier, and I have lived with systemic lupus erythematosus since 2004. I was originally diagnosed in 2002 with rheumatoid arthritis only. Since that time, when the lupus attacked my intestines, that's when I got the firm diagnosis of SLE. And I live currently in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia, originally from New York City. So that's me in a little nutshell. I actually live with several comorbidities. I have type 2 diabetes, I have rheumatoid arthritis, I have SLE, and I also have a possible Sjögren's. So we're just hoping that that doesn't pop up as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping for you. And I'm hoping today we'll get a little more into the bigger version of the nutshell then of who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, with that in mind, actually, we could go ahead and dive right into your journey with lupus, I suppose. So we could actually start maybe with your road to diagnosis, what that was like and the early stages of understanding your diagnosis. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, like I stated, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 2002. I had just moved from New York to Virginia, and I had a 3-year-old. And everything was just going so fast. You know, we moved from New York to slow down some.
Yeah.
So once we moved from New York to Virginia, I feel like that kind of slowed my body down some for me to see what was happening in my body. While I was living in New York, I was not able to really fathom any type of illness because I was running so much from sunup to sundown. So by the time I moved here to Richmond, Virginia, it became quite obvious that something was not right. I was working as a social worker for foster care children. And one day I just couldn't walk. I could barely talk. I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't outstretch my fingers. I couldn't move my legs. Everything was swollen. I looked like I had sausages for hands and feet. I'll just put it to you that way.
Oh, wow.
And once I figured out how to call my husband as I was crawling on the floor and got to the doctor when they finally came and got me, They were like, oh, we just think that you have rheumatoid arthritis. He took some scans of my hands and my feet. He said, it is rheumatoid arthritis. But the good thing is that my doctor was proactive in telling me that it could be something called lupus. And when he said that to me, I was like, what is lupus? I didn't know what lupus was. I only knew of a girl in college that might have passed away from lupus, but I thought it was cancer at first. And he was like, no, it's an autoimmune condition. He explained it all to me. And he stated, it's not what it is now, but I want to put that in your head just in case it develops into that. So I feel really fortunate that I had a doctor who was very upfront with me. And he explained to me that it happens more to African-American women. So just be on the alert, basically, is what he stated. 2 years later down the line, I had a major flare. I had about 4.5 liters of fluid in my belly. And had I not gone into the doctor when I did, I probably would have died. Once they realized that lupus had attacked my intestines with ascites, that's when I got the firm diagnosis of SLE.
Wow.
And the doctor comes in like, woohoo, I know what you have. I got it. Here we go. You've got lupus. I was like, yeah, I figured that. He was like, wait a minute, you figured that? Yeah, the doctor already told me. So, I figured that's what I had. We were just waiting for it to jump up at me and beat me upside the head. So that was my first real firm diagnosis of lupus. And when I was diagnosed with lupus, I didn't see anybody in my town. Like I said, I'm in the suburbs of Virginia. I didn't see anybody in my town that looked like me. I didn't know anybody that had lupus. Nobody came to the hospital.
Right.
If you have different diseases, they send people in to talk to you. Nobody came to the hospital to talk to me. And I felt lost. I felt confused. I felt scared. And in that feeling, I always say out of necessity comes creativity. In that feeling, I said, I don't want anyone else to feel this way ever again. No one. I don't care who you are, man, woman, child, black, white, red, brown. I don't want anybody to feel this way anymore. And I founded Lupus in Color as an online support group that opened up to a local support group, the only one that was here in Richmond for a long time, and now has become an international global organization that we really help people all over the world.
That's incredible.
So that diagnosis really was a gut punch for me because I was always an athlete, 2 Olympic trials. I've always done something, basketball, all these different things. I was running before I moved. And then all of a sudden I was stopped. And I had to take that energy and put it elsewhere that would help not only myself, but also others.
I really think that's quite incredible because, like you said, you had so much energy and so much, you were going all the time, and kind of that perfect redirect and funneling that energy into advocacy. I think it's really beautiful, honestly, because I feel like that initial part of your journey, like you said, was you didn't even know about lupus. So it was learning about the condition, and you really had to learn how to then advocate for yourself and creating Lupus in Color because you didn't see anybody that looked like you in the area which you lived. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit more then about that experience, how you've self-advocated to make sure you're receiving the best care possible.
I think it was something that was instilled in me from birth. Honestly, I was a premature baby, so I had to fight that way all through my life. My mom passed when I was very young. I had to fight through that way. My whole life has been advocating for myself, honestly. And I think that when I got the diagnosis, it made me really think about who I am and what my purpose in life was.
A thing that you touched on too was that not only were you self-advocating, but you also had a doctor have a doctor who was also going to advocate for you and kind of to you about what you needed to do, which is great, because I feel like there are a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have that and don't necessarily have a good relationship with their doctor. And I know you'd mentioned to me previously that really helps you feel cared for and understood and heard because you're able to share in the decision-making about your path forward. What do I need to do, but what can we do together? And I was just wondering in that regard, could you share advice for other patients out there on the importance of that doctor-patient relationship in working toward remission?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the relationship that you have first with yourself is most important. So I had to get that right with me first so that I could have the proper relationship with my doctor. I think that a lot of times we're given this whole chronic illness issue put upon us. We kind of lose the faith in ourselves and put everything into the doctor. when it should be a collaboration. So once I got that relationship with myself first, to change my mindset to think, okay, they're practicing doctors for a reason. They don't know everything. They can't know everything. Nobody knows everything. And you know your body best. So I had to make a pact with myself to say, look, you have to trust your doctor, but you also have to trust yourself and keep yourself in check so that you know what to ask the doctor. I also have a very supportive husband who is always there and ready to jump into action. So if I was unable to talk about what's going on, he would accompany me to the doctor. And it began to become a friendship where literally I will go into my doctor and say, I've got a boil on my butt. Can you look at this? And he's like, whoa, Mrs. Doja, calm down. That's not my department. But it created such a loving relationship, honestly, between myself and my doctor. And like you stated, I was very fortunate to have a doctor who was willing to be open and honest with me. And I think from the time he asked me the question, whether I wanted it soft or hard, I think I set the precedence for him there. And I told him even at the beginning, I need you to always be honest with me. If I'm doing something wrong, you need to let me know. Because if you're doing something wrong, if I don't let you know, my husband will let you know. My doctor knows if my husband's with me, something's going on. Something's going on, and he really needs to stop and pay attention. But my advice to people is to really just become a partner with your doctor. Yes, your doctor is the professional. Don't do things in a way that is negating his profession. But let him know you understand your body and this is not working or that is working. And if that doctor's not listening to you, maybe it's time to find a new doctor. So you really have to start with a friendship. I can go to the gym and see my doctor and he's like, I'm glad you're on the treadmill. Next week, you can get in the pool. So a lot of people might not have that opportunity to have that relationship that way. But if you start it as a partnership and not as the doctor knows best and I know nothing, it really makes a difference.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. I think you really set that up perfectly too, is that you really have to know yourself first and get yourself in order before you can really work on that relationship with the doctor. And that doesn't mean you have to have it all tied up in a neat, nice bow. I mean, who of us does
right.
with ourselves, but enough so that you can go to that doctor and say, hey, this is what I know about me. This is what's working and this is what's not. And we need to do something about it together.
Absolutely.
I think that, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that really probably helped you understand how you start to define things in your life and with lupus.
Right.
And when you were working toward remission, I'm just curious how you then define remission or low disease activity in your everyday life. I know it can be such a challenging goal and everyone has different definitions and feelings, but I feel like with you saying, okay, I need to kind of make sure I can get myself together. How do you define then remission?
Okay, so I don't normally say remission, honestly. And the thing about it is that it's so unpredictable. So I say that it's always in a silencing. It's just sitting there waiting for something to interact with it, whether it be something that I'm doing or something that the atmosphere has done, or just to be lupus itself. So I really define my lupus symptoms being under the radar as a silencing. Because as I said to my doctor, I asked him, can this be cured? And he said, no, but it can be managed. Okay. I put that in my head. So I know that managing something, if I have an injury, managing an injury is doing what you're supposed to do to cope with the injury and to make the injury better. So I just applied that to my life with lupus. And anytime I have a flare, it's a flare. Anytime I'm pretty even keeled, it's a silencing. But I know that things that I do day to day will either bring that lupus symptom up or hold it down. So I really make a conscious effort to understand what interacts with my body to bring flares up and to bring it out of that silencing. And I interact with the environment that I'm in to make sure that everything is good there.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it's actually something that I was going to ask next. It's funny that you say that. It was about basically any advice you had for patients on how to get through those difficult moments, whether they might be close calls or bad flares. Anything else to share there?
I feel like living with lupus is just coping day to day, honestly. And you have to find the coping skills that work for you, because what works for me, Adam, is not going to work for you. What works for Susie won't work for Sally. So I'm always saying, find what works for you. Start with the basics, your food intake, your movement, your mental health, and then branch out from there. Everybody won't do a full workout, but you can move by walking. Everyone won't change to a vegan diet, but you can change Monday to Meatless Monday. Everyone won't be always straight mentally and spiritually, but you can see a therapist to help you learn those coping mechanisms to take it one step at a time as you deal with lupus. So my advice is to really take it one step at a time. Learn your body by holding journals of the food you eat, the moods that you go through, and whatever else that you need to have in that journal. And then look back at it to see, oh, I ate asparagus, and you know what? That made my stomach really bad. I kind of had a flare in my hand. Little things like that. Everything you do is just step by step by step. And you can only take this journey with lupus a nanosecond at a time. I want to say a picosecond at a time, but that might be a little harder for people to get. But every second counts. Every step matters. And what you do with your time as you deal with lupus makes a difference on your lupus journey. Now, I do want to preface all that with, you can do everything right, but lupus is a chronic illness.
Right.
And in that chronic illness, doing everything right sometimes means absolutely nothing. You're still going to have a flare. You're still going to be struggling.
Right.
But if you're taking it step by step, moment by moment, I think it makes a difference in your lupus life.
Definitely. And I think that part of that conversation too, or part of that dialogue, not only with yourself, but with your doctor, is about treatments or treatment plans and options that might be available for you too, to help you, whether that's through a flare or through everything daily.
Absolutely. Be an active participant in your treatment plan. Don't just take what the doctor says for granted, because he's just doing his job. He knows lupus is an autoimmune condition, and this medication usually works on most lupus patients, but you might not be most. So just pay attention to how everything is affecting you. Make sure that you're an active participant in your care as far as your healthcare professionals. And then make sure that you're checking in on them too, because sometimes they don't know. They're seeing patients all over. Being patient with yourself, being patient with your doctor, and being patient with just learning what lupus is in your life, because it's going to change day to day. The way I was diagnosed is totally different than the way I am today. One, because of course, we've got better treatments for lupus, and
Of course.
we work with the doctor to get the treatment that works best for me. Number two, I'm older. With age, body changes. And with age, your body changes as well as lupus changes.
Right.
So you have to learn to be patient with yourself and learn to really be an active participant in your treatment plan as well as your daily plan every single day. A lot of people don't want to share their lupus story because they feel embarrassed. I find that a lot of lupus patients feel embarrassed because they can't do what they used to do. And it goes back to your whole relationship with yourself. You have to really get out of the woe is me and beat yourself up a little bit and be like, let's go, sister. You got to get up. You got to get up, because the woe is me is going to keep you in that negative space. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm talking about just being in a negative space, being your worst critic. I'm just talking about you really just doing things inch by inch to get to a place where you feel better, that you are able to advocate for yourself more when those disparities come in your space.
What you said, it's like that perfect combination of everything we've been talking about, like relationships, education, advocacy, and kind of that perfect cocktail or combination, if you will, to achieve low disease activity or remission, however you define that, the silencing of lupus, and really to make sure that you're receiving your best possible care. And so that others can advocate for the best care for others, whether that might be healthcare professionals or patients themselves. And thanks so much for sharing all of that, Racquel. We really appreciate it. And I know that people out there listening are going to appreciate it, and your willingness to be so open about about this. And I just had like one last request before we wrap up, just one more question. And that would be, as a fellow patient, do you have 3 words you could share with our listeners that, whether they have lupus or other chronic conditions, especially those listeners who might still be in an early stage of their journey, 3 words that would support them in continuing to seek that best possible treatment?
I think my 3 words would be patience. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your doctor. Be patient with the system that doesn't understand lupus and how it affects your body. Grace. Give yourself some grace because you haven't had lupus before. Don't be so hard on yourself. Take it a moment by moment and allow yourself to feel everything so that you can get through it in the most positive way. And the last word would probably be compassion. Just give yourself some compassion and allow yourself to love you beyond lupus, beyond anything that you're going through. Because if you're not loving yourself, there's no way that you can train someone how to treat you or how to be around you. So patience, grace, and compassion are 3 words that you have to keep in your arsenal as you deal with lupus.
That's perfect. I couldn't agree more. Patience, grace, and compassion. I think those are 3 of the perfect words to send us out. So thank you again so much for sharing, Racquel, and for being with us today on Remission Possible.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Remission Possible, the podcast where we explore the path to low disease activity and improved well-being. We hope the stories, insights, and guidance we've shared have inspired and empowered you along the way. This podcast was made possible with support from AstraZeneca. If you like what you've heard, be sure to rate our podcast, write a positive review, and spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. It'll help more people like you find us.
Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation Podcast Network.